I said to Ryan, I said, Jedis don't give up. I mean, even if he had a problem, he would uh, maybe take a year to try and regroup. But if he made a mistake, he would try and right that wrong. So right there, we had a fundamental difference. But it's not my story anymore. It's somebody else's story. And Ryan needed me to be a certain way to make the ending effective.
Hello there. Back in the day during the Legends time period of Star Wars, Luke Skywalker created his very own Jedi Order throughout the entirety of the Republic. It was a fairly successful Jedi Order, lasting all the way from about 8 to 9 ABY all the way till 138 ABY, which is very, very good. But unfortunately, because of some complicated issues like the One Sith Order, because, there has to be Sith in literally every chronological time period of Star Wars, we had to unfortunately destroy the Jedi Order and then bring it back up immediately after they were defeated, which is great. So today I want to talk about Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order and how it compares to the new Jedi Order in the new continuity for Star Wars here in the Disney era. So without further ado, here we go. But first, with a bit of a recap, we go back to Order 66. Order 66 was probably one of the most dramatic, tragic, and overall destructive events in the entire history of the Jedi Order. Palpatine wiped out nearly 99% of all Jedi and the entirety of the Jedi Order. Multitudes of Jedi generals and Jedi masters were killed, not just by their own clone troopers, but also by the ex-Jedi now turned Sith Lord, Anakin Skywalker, also known as Darth Vader. Now, during this time in Star Wars history, only a handful of Jedi actually survived Order 66, and around this time, the only two Jedi that we actually knew of were Obi-Wan Kenobi and Master Yoda. With Obi-Wan Kenobi, of course, being the original master of Anakin Skywalker and the one who trained him since he was a small boy, and Jedi Master Yoda, of course, being the one who led the entirety of the Jedi Order all the way through during the Clone Wars and the initial rise of the Jedi Order during the High Republic. Now, with the passing of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Grandmaster Yoda, somebody had to step up and take the reins and lead the Jedi Order down a new path. That person, fortunately, would be Jedi Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi of the Jedi Order and hero of the rebellion. Now, the four main philosophies that Luke Skywalker believed in Legends were compassion and understanding, connection to all life, intention, and of course, balance. Luke Skywalker personally believed in emotional attachments. That's how he was able to defeat Darth Vader and the Emperor whenever he felt compassion for Darth Vader and felt compassion for his own father and felt so much emotional connection to his father that he threw away his own lightsaber and defied the Emperor like no one else ever could. Unlike the Jedi Knights of old, who weren't exactly thrilled with the idea of emotional attachment because they believed that emotional attachment could lead to the dark side of the Force, main example, of course, being Anakin Skywalker, who felt so much compassion and so much emotional attachment for Padme Amidala that it eventually led to him turning to the dark side of the Force, becoming Darth Vader, and eradicating the entirety of the Jedi Order. Whereas if they could have, acknowledged his emotional attachments towards Padme and actually assisted him in helping him find a way to ensure that she wouldn't die, it probably wouldn't have happened. And the entirety of the Jedi Order would probably still be here to talk about it. But speaking of the dark side of the Force, let's talk about Luke Skywalker's ideology when it comes to the dark side. Luke Skywalker originally viewed the dark side of the Force as dangerous and seductive, and a temptation that must be constantly resisted, recognizing that its power was offering quick solutions but ultimately leading to destruction and corruption, as exemplified by Lord Vader, who used the power of the dark side of the Force to destroy the entirety of the Jedi Order, but because of the power of the dark side of the Force, felt that he was so powerful that he could easily defeat Obi-Wan Kenobi in a 1v1 matchup, but ended up getting his other arm and legs cut off and trapped him inside of the Lord Vader suit, where Vader would then in turn become a powerful Sith Lord and become the right hand of the Emperor, but would also be so weak compared to Anakin Skywalker that he would never be able to reach the full potential of Anakin as Lord Vader. But whenever it came to Luke Skywalker, Luke did actively use the dark side of the Force on some occasions, mainly whenever it came to high-intensity situations and his internal struggle. Despite his commitment to the light, Luke did experience moments of doubt and anger where he actively chose to resist the dark side's pull, but one of his most intense moments was during the finale of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now, one of the things that caused Luke Skywalker to almost turn to the dark side of the Force was, of course, fear and anger. The fear of losing his friends, the fear of his friends dying because of his inaction, the fear of Leia eventually turning to the dark side of the Force because that's what Vader threatened to do to her, switched something off in Luke Skywalker to the point where he attacked Vader with absolutely no hesitation, all anger, all hatred, all vile, and caused him to embrace the dark side of the Force for maybe a moment before he cut off Vader's hand and effectively forgot and then realized the error of his ways, realizing that he was becoming exactly like Vader, and then tossed his weapon aside to defy the Emperor like no one else ever had throughout the entire history of Star Wars. And after defying the Emperor, Luke Skywalker felt such compassion for his father, asking and pleading for him to help him. Vader finally switched over to Anakin Skywalker and did the one thing that Anakin should have done in the first place, and killed the ever-loving crap out of Palpatine. And it was because of this compassion that Anakin Skywalker felt for his son that he was able to redeem himself, return back to the ways of Anakin Skywalker, die, and eventually become a Force ghost where he would revert to his form as Anakin Skywalker before he turned into Lord Vader. Another thing that I really wanted to touch up on was the idea of going beyond the Jedi Order, beyond the ideas of being this government institute that was controlled by the Senate, that was controlled by the Republic, and that was controlled by every force of government throughout the entirety of the galaxy. Instead, the Jedi Order was a religious group, a place where people could actually come to learn the ways of the Force, that could come to bring balance, fostering harmony, and wasn't so much focused on fighting, but was actually focused on helping all the individuals throughout the entirety of the galaxy. Luke Skywalker in this generation overall was just a very, very nice person. He was wanting to help everybody within the Jedi Order. He was wanting to help people who were struggling with the dark side. He was wanting to help people in all shades of life and thinking that they could all be redeemed in one way, shape, and form, and was so balanced with the Force that he could literally use the dark side abilities like Force Lightning and convert them into different forms of light side abilities. This part of Luke Skywalker is an individual that understands the meaning and the balance of the Force, that understands that people throughout the entirety of the galaxy need help, and is willing to provide it. Meanwhile, with the other variation of Luke Skywalker, it gets a little, should we say, controversial. The main thing that I don't like about this new Disney version of Luke Skywalker is simply the fact that he does not believe that emotional attachment should be a thing. He tells Grogu immediately right off the bat and Boba Fett that you can either choose one, emotional attachments or to become a Jedi, as if you can't have both at the same time. Again, it was because of emotional attachments towards his father, towards Leia, and towards all of his friends and allies throughout the entirety of the rebellion that caused Luke Skywalker to not only fight and win against Darth Vader, but also to defy the Emperor and throw his lightsaber away and declare that he was, in fact, a Jedi. And for Luke to then say to another individual who wants to become a Jedi, who has the ability to use the Force and who does have emotional attachments towards Mando, that he can only choose one or the other is absolutely insane, considering the fact that, it was because of emotional attachments that you were able to defeat the Emperor in the first place, so why are you giving Grogu crap about having emotional attachments towards Mando? Also, going back to the very thing that caused Ben to turn to the dark side of the Force, that caused the entirety of his new Jedi Order to crumble, that caused him to go to wherever the heck he went into The Last Jedi so he could hide and die on this little island, it, of course, was fear. Luke Skywalker was afraid. He was afraid of his nephew turning to the dark side of the Force. He was afraid of him destroying his Jedi Order. He was afraid of him destroying his Jedi Temple. And then over the course of that time, decided that the only thing that was necessary for him to do was to kill his own nephew in his sleep, even though his father, the literal Dark Lord of the Sith, the one who was the right hand of the Emperor, who killed thousands of people, was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of his friends and allies in the rebellion, and who actively was trying to kill him, even though that they were father and son, decided to spare his life because he could find some good in his own father, but couldn't find any good in his teenage nephew, who he had a vision about destroying his entire temple. What are you on, Luke? On top of that, for some ungodly reason, they refused to talk about Luke Skywalker in any way, shape, and form because he's only in 3 movies, 1 half-decent TV show, a handful of comics, and he has no information about him other than the fact that he decided to try and kill Ben, and he spared Darth Vader. So yeah, to be completely honest, that's all I really got for Luke Skywalker at this moment in time. Obviously, the Legends Luke Skywalker is a much better written out character, a much better Jedi Master, a much better Jedi in general, but I just wanted to point that out, and I just wanted to say that with my full chest. Luke Skywalker in this Disney canon. I hate Jake Skywalker. That's it.